Guru Nation, welcome to another episode of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru in this very hot side of the office. Yeah. Why are we in here, Chris? Why?
I don't know. You said it looked nicer over here.
It looks much nicer here. It's
a
great room, great table. But why is there no AC on this side?
Nobody's ever over here, so it's just kept off.
We need to do something with this place.
Yeah, we're paying the mortgage on nothing.
Yeah, we're only using half of the space.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, we're hot. We're doing this for Guru Nation. So I got a lot of requests, Chris, and they're all around the same topic. There's actually two topics that I'm getting a lot of requests for. One of them I'm going to do tomorrow on my own. But that one is how a full-time employee at a big pharma or a big CRO can transition into becoming a consultant. I got a lot for these people. I just had a 20-minute motivation call with a CRA in this position now.
Not to go off on a huge tangent here, but
so that's a preview for tomorrow, everybody.
What would be easier, to be a consultant or start your own site as one of these people?
It depends on that person's skill set, really.
Okay.
That's the answer.
So you get a brief synopsis on tomorrow.
You get like a sneak peek.
Yeah.
We don't want people to get too excited. Just wait. You have to listen to this one.
Yeah.
Because this one, I wanted to bring you on, and if we had more room in this office, I would have brought Carlos or Rosario. I've been getting, this one actually was asked even more frequently than the last one I mentioned. So, the importance of CRA-CRC dynamic, okay, from both perspectives. And we're actually going to do, it's so important of a topic, apparently, from the feedback I'm getting. We're going to make August webinar, this topic. So Carla's going to make the slides, and then sometimes
you have requests to discuss this topic?
Numerous requests.
Interesting.
Numerous.
Okay.
So from both perspectives, so I think on the webinar, we're going to really dive deep into this issue. For this podcast, we're just going to kind of introduce the problem and introduce some of the mitigating strategies for both. If you are a CRC dealing with a difficult CRA, or if you're a CRA dealing with a difficult PI or coordinator. I've seen that as well.
That's probably more common, would be my guess.
Which one?
For a CRA to deal with a difficult site opposed to a coordinator dealing with a difficult CRA. At least in my experience.
And do you think that has to do with the market dynamics now? There's a lot of study supply, and so sites feel like they're more entitled, versus when it's a short, contracted market, there's a lower study supply.
So I would think in either situation, it's the CRA is more often going to deal with difficult sites than sites are going to deal with a difficult CRA.
Yeah,
right?
So define a difficult site.
They're unresponsive, they're very difficult to, your follow-up reports, they're not taking care of their obligations.
Action items.
Right.
Queries.
The PI won't give you the time of day. Right?
Isn't that every site though?
Not necessarily. No, I don't think so. Right? Like most sites, the PI will at least acknowledge the CRA and give them 5 minutes, right?
Right.
But I think there's sites out there it's 10 seconds, right? Taking more than 10 seconds to the PI's time is too long. I mean, I've heard these stories from CRAs.
Yeah, good point actually. Because I was thinking more from the perspective of the site, and how lately I was talking to the coordinators today, we haven't really dealt with too many
problematic CRAs.
Yeah. Right.
And even when we did have difficult CRAs, I don't really recall really two difficult CRAs in my experience. Like truly what I would consider difficult. I've had numerous CRAs that weren't necessarily friendly,
right,
but they weren't difficult.
Not difficult.
Right.
So what are those ones? Those are what? They just go in, do their job, leave?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, they don't really, we have CRAs where they come in, they go to the room that, we've assigned them to.
Yeah.
The binders are all there. They literally shut the door And unless they have to use the bathroom, you don't see them again until they leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not friendly by any means, but they're not difficult. You understand what I'm saying? So that's relatively common. But I think the most common CRA is one that's somewhat friendly. Somewhat, at least.
Okay, that's the most common.
I think
I remember
so.
one time we did a video on this and we said something like 10%
Yeah.
are from hell,
Yeah.
10% are like your friend,
Like
and then 80 is like everyone.
professional. Just professional. Right?
Yeah.
Just have a job to do.
Somewhere on that spectrum, but not out of the ordinary.
Right. But even those can be somewhat friendly. Right?
So why should the CRA and the CRC have a good working relationship?
A number of reasons. It's very important to the CRA, in my opinion.
Who's it more important to? It's a good question. Good philosophical question for the podcast.
Well, let's go from both ends, right? So why is it important to a CRA? Because there's going to be times when the sponsor or CRO is demanding from you something from the site, right? And it's become your responsibility when you have no control over that whatsoever. It's still your responsibility in their mind, right? And I can even give a story about this. So when I first started working as a coordinator many years ago, the CRA that I was working with for a particular study had my cell phone number. And I was at Disneyland with my family on a Sunday, right? And she called my cell phone and said, "Hey Chris, I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday. I really have a big favor to ask of you," right? She said, "Can you by any chance log into the EDC? There's a few queries there that need to be answered and they have to be done today." Right?
Really? I didn't know this story.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, I'd love to help you out." And she's like, "Yeah, it'd be a great help to me because they're breathing down my neck." I said, "But unfortunately, I just drove 2 hours to Disneyland. I'm at Disneyland with my family." I said, "Does it have to be done right this minute?" And she goes, "Well, no, just as long as it's done before midnight your time, right? It can't be the next day." I said, "Well, how about this? I'll make sure and leave in time so I can get home and get it done before midnight. Does that work for you?" Right? And she was like, "Yes, that would be a great favor to me." I was like, "Okay." And I did. I got home at like 11:30 and got it done.
And you did it just in the nick of time. But why did you do it for her?
Because I liked her. She was nice. Right? I liked her and she was nice.
And what did she do that made you like her?
She
I want to
was-
get real, like maybe
Yeah,
there's
she
a
was
CRA watching.
She was just pleasant and she was helpful, right? If you had a question, it wasn't go fend for yourself. She was more than happy to try and help you with it, right?
Yeah.
And she was pleasant. Being pleasant goes a long ways, right?
Yes.
And if this were a CRA I did not like, I would have said, "Well, I'll be at the office tomorrow and what else I can do for you." I mean, truly, that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone was...
And then they would have gotten in trouble, right?
Exactly.
Because why did your site not do this?
Exactly.
They should have done it by Friday night. You screwed up because you forgot to follow up with them on Friday.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
see. I see. So that's the importance from the CRA side.
Exactly.
Now, what about from the site side? Why should the PI and CRC care
And
about having a good relationship with their CRAs?
the situation can flip, right? Maybe the CRC encounters a problem that they don't know how to resolve, and for whatever reason they need to do it quickly. Right? It could be they want to screen a patient or randomize a patient, and it's the last day to randomize the patient. They've encountered something they're not exactly certain if the patient can randomize, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the coordinator really needs to speak with the CRA, right, to see if what they're about to do is acceptable.
Yeah.
And, if the CRA is unresponsive, that's not going to be helpful to the CRC, right? And maybe if it's a problem site, maybe the CRA is less likely to respond, possibly.
Mm-hmm. What about getting future studies? How much weight does
That I don't know.
the CRA liking the site? Because I'll tell you.
Sure, it weighs in a little bit, but I don't know how much.
So I'm a CRA, I'm a contract CRA, and it depends on the sponsor and who you're working for. But if I recommend a site, like if I know a study is struggling with recruitment, I can recommend a site, maybe one that I've worked with in the past, and they're gonna get that study, right?
Sure.
But if I don't like that site as a CRA, because I know I'm probably going to also be assigned to that site, If I don't like that site as a CRA, why would I assign?
Right.
You know, it'd be like giving yourself work that you hate, like voluntarily. Why would you do that? Yeah. So that's, I think there is something there as well, where having that relationship is important. Another thing, sites, if they're doing it properly, because finding experienced coordinators is hard, right? So once you have a good, even one, but like, let's say like the right infrastructure to support your studies of experienced coordinators, you should be bringing in research naive people with potential and training them. And a lot of times your CRAs can train your new coordinator.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you have a good rapport with your CRA, you could say, hey, this is Chris, he's brand new, I just hired him, he's a backup for this study, can you please train him today while you're monitoring? And sometimes they'll do it. You know, usually they still need to get their stuff done, but sometimes they will sit the coordinator there with them and say, this is what I'm doing, I'm in the EDC right now, you see the source, this is wrong, we need to change this, right? So I've had CRAs do that with my staff in the past as well, and it's good for me as the site director because it's somebody else training them. Yeah, I'm training them also, but it's just another person, it's another free module, if you will, for that coordinator, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in most industries, like to train your employees is costly. Like you have to do it, you have to pay people to do it.
Yep.
You can enroll in the CRC Academy. Shameless plug.
Oh, yeah.
Not so shameless plug. The CRC Academy.com. Very important that you understand where this website is located on the internet. The CRC Academy.com. First class 9919. The slides need to be ready soon, sir.
Yeah, I'm not promising 9919.
9919 is going to happen even if Chris has to teach for an entire week live. How many hours in a week? 164?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but it might happen. I don't know. Or Monica's going to do it.
No, it's not happening.
So back to the topic, because Carlos making a webinar out of this. Thank you very much, Carlos. You've been doing great. I know you're listening right now.
Can't be listening.
If you're listening, here's a test. You want to give him a test?
Right now.
No, listen. He's gonna listen.
You will listen. Oh, this is
Do
true.
you want to
When
do a
listen,
test?
you will listen.
Let's see if he's actually listening, because we're telling Carlos we're doing a podcast right now and the topic will be the slides he will make for our August webinar.
Sure.
Carlos, if you're listening on this slide, I want it to be purple. This slide. Let's see.
No, see, I think we're going to forget that.
No, we're not going to forget.
I will forget.
I won't forget.
You should just type in something like hi Dan.
Type in hi Dan on a purple slide.
There you go.
Somewhere. That way I know you're listening, Carlos.
There you go.
And if it's not on there, you're in trouble. Alright. So back to the topic. So that's one of the reasons why sites should care. So there's actually two. Studies, training. There's a third one that people don't talk about. Right?
Okay.
I've dealt with it before. I'm sure everyone has as well. If you've got a good rapport with your CRA and your site goofs up a bit, makes a mistake, right?
Which happens.
Happens more than people care to admit.
Right.
If your CRA does not like you, they're making a huge issue out of it. Also, depending on the issue. Sometimes they can't do. Sometimes they can't do anything, right?
Yep.
But they could either make it a big deal, or they can take care of it with you on site.
I would say that even goes to unknown issues, right? In other words,
And I'm not saying anything unethical or changing
No, of
data. I'm
course
just
not.
saying the difference between escalating something to sponsor versus training it and handling it yourself, which the CRAs for the most part have full autonomy to do.
Right, but even when it comes to finding issues during an IMV, the way they phrase the issue, right?
Yes.
Could bring more heat on the site, depending on how it's phrased.
That's right, and how they write it in their report, and what the sponsor is going to ask on the comments, and the response from the CRA.
So yeah, absolutely.
All those things matter.
If the CRA doesn't like the site, it's probably not going to be any helpful words to the site. Right?
And guess what?
Or wording.
Sometimes CRAs are asked by the sponsor should this site be put on a screening hold, right? And
Or even shut down.
right. And it's not like the CRA is the end all and the authority of it.
No, of course not.
Their input is valued. So you do want the CRA to be your ally. I mean, if you're a smart site, that's what you're striving to get.
Absolutely.
Now, sometimes people don't mix well, you know, or you're just dealing with someone who's impossible to work with. There's nothing you can do. We both know a CRA like that. First name starts with a Y, ends in an E, right?
I know. You didn't even have to say that. I knew who you were talking about.
I've heard of numerous sites complaining about this one.
Yes, I have too.
There's no way anybody can have a good relationship with this person.
Correct.
As a site, right? Even the best sites.
Correct.
There's sites I go to monitor, and they're very good sites. They deal with this monitor. The PI says this monitor makes everything into a big issue.
Yep.
The smallest things get escalated to the sponsor. We've dealt with her here.
Yep.
Right? What is the strategies for the sites in that situation?
So if you're dealing with a difficult monitor,
Yeah, how do you mitigate that challenge?
well, you need patience. You need patience, right? But unfortunately, usually everybody has a point in which that's worn thin, right?
Right.
So, well, this particular monitor, I got another story. So this particular monitor that you're referring to literally got into a fight, not a physical fight, but a yelling fight with the coordinator.
You saw this?
Yeah, I was in the middle of it.
The same one I'm talking about?
Yes.
She didn't seem like a
They were yelling
person.
Well, yeah, she wasn't really yelling, but she was making snide comments, right? The coordinator was yelling at her.
Okay.
Okay, can you see that?
I can see that. I can't see her yelling.
Anyhow, and this monitor turned to me and said, "Are you going to allow your employees to talk this way to me? This is very disrespectful," right? And the coordinator just walked off, right? And then her and I had a conversation for a little bit.
Were you yelling also?
No, I wasn't saying anything. I was just kind of sitting there watching with my popcorn.
What did the monitor tell you when the coordinator left?
She was just saying, "I've never been so disrespected at a site in my life." Stuff like that, which I'm sure she has.
What was the coordinator telling her?
Just how fed up she was with all of the ridiculous stuff she demands. That kind of thing.
No inappropriate language? Or?
No, nothing like that. But she was yelling it at her.
Yeah, okay.
So you don't want to get to that point, right?
Right.
But like I said, I mean, patience worth thin.
Yeah.
And that's why they.
And even the PI didn't like this.
Right, and that's why I didn't really say anything to the coordinator. I understood it because this has been going on for a year and a half.
So when the coordinator left and it was just you and this tyrant,
I told her I would have a conversation with the coordinator and try to make sure this doesn't happen again. I apologize.
No, so you were playing ally to the
Yeah.
CRA.
Yeah.
And it never got better, right?
No, it never got better.
Yeah.
So I think she got fired.
So,
The CRA.
well, she's still monitoring.
No, I know, but I think she got fired because her replacement said that there was a number of sites that complained that she was crazy and
Yeah.
they replaced her.
And there's still sites complaining. I just bumped into her. She didn't recognize me.
Right.
Anyways, so there's another thing you can do, but be careful as well. You can always escalate. You as the site, and again, this depends on the market you're in.
Yeah, but the devil you know.
I know, but let's complete this thought. So you can request, or you can do two things. You can escalate to the project manager, voice your concerns. It's much better if the PI does it,
Yep.
or the site director, or both.
Yep.
Okay, and say, hey, we've been trying to work with this person. We have X amount of studies. We deal with monitors on a X amount of basis. This is by far the worst. What can we do? We don't want to jeopardize the study. You know what the PI at one of my sites that I'm monitoring is saying about what they're doing? Sponsors need to hear this. CROs need to hear this. The PI that is currently dealing with this CRA that we're talking about, she said she's done enrolling in that study because of her. Not because they don't have the
Did she
patience.
say unless she gets a replacement or just period, I'm just done, I don't care?
Period, I'm done.
Even if a replacement's given.
It didn't get to that point.
Okay.
She just said, "I'm done." You don't want to do that. You're losing money. At this point, your employee became your liability. Because now they're costing you money, right? That's something that a lot of CROs and sponsors don't understand.
See, that's the problem here is, though, I don't see how you would mitigate this, because that CRA comes off fine in the first meeting, right?
Right.
So a job interview, she would come off fine,
Yeah.
and her CV is extensive,
Right.
for sure, right? So I don't see how you mitigate hiring this person. How do you avoid this?
I don't think you can avoid hiring, especially in a shortage of CRAs. There's going to be a role for her. Unfortunately, this person is probably going to get promoted to lead CRA to not have to deal with sites. And she's just going to drive her subordinates crazy.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. It's going to end up costing you turnover
Yeah.
in that case. So this person's still a liability at the end of the day, but the sponsors like her CV. There's not much you can do as a sponsor, but pay attention to your site feedback, because somebody's going to complain at some point. I mean, and take those complaints seriously. When we complained about this CRA, they didn't take our complaint seriously.
Until they heard
At
it
all.
from a few other sites, and then I believe she was fired, but I don't know that.
Yeah, but the first times we brought it up,
Yeah, it was dismissed.
yeah.
Had to hear it numerous times from numerous other sites.
And I think that had a lot to do with the market environment at that time. It was very low supply of studies, especially the kind of studies we were doing. And they didn't really need us, honestly. Like, they didn't care if we dropped out. In a 2019-2020 world, that's different. Like, the leverage is in the site's favor.
Yep.
And now, if you're a sponsor or CRO, like, do you actually hire for empathy? Because this person has no empathy, right? But how do you hire for that? And then what becomes more important?
I don't think that's a necessary qualification, empathy. I don't think you need to be empathetic to your site necessarily. I think it helps, certainly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've discussed this, I discuss this with our students all the time. I think the best CRAs were once coordinators at some point.
You discuss it with the students in our CRA Academy.
Correct.
TheCRAacademy.com.
Correct.
Commercial break, TheCRAacademy.com.
But the best
website on the internet, hands down.
in terms of research, yes.
Even that's a stretch.
Oh, so it may do better than Sports Illustrated if you're into sports. So it's
Yeah.
better than that.
TheCRAacademy.com.
Okay, so I tell all of the students the best CRAs were once coordinators because they can be empathetic.
That's right. That's right.
They understand the problems that the coordinator is having and how to help them deal with this, right? Not that it's necessarily your problem, but it kind of is as a CRA.
So you were saying when we started this podcast, or this episode, you were saying that currently you believe, and I kind of agree with you, the issue in this dynamic is that the CRAs are dealing with difficult sites, not necessarily sites. More often than not, right? In this economy, like 2019.
Even more in this economy. But
and that's because the sites have leverage, right?
Well, that's not the only reason. Because I would say even going back to when studies were slower, right, more difficult to get, I would say even in that dynamic, it's still the CRA is going to deal with more difficult sites. I just think that's the way it breaks down. Just less so, right? But especially when it's busy because you're dealing with research naive sites too, right? Which you're going to have more issues as a CRA at research naive sites. And then on top of that, they start losing patients, and then they get upset with you, and just all kinds of things happen.
So
they think you're too demanding for these mistakes, and so they get upset. I've heard this happening, right?
So as a CRA, then, like, what is some strategies you can deal with? Because we give the sites some ideas. As a CRA,
I don't think they have any.
I think they do, but it starts with before any issues arise.
Well, so again, you're dealing with a research naive site, right? Everybody's pleasant, but then you start having all these issues with the site, right? Once they start screening and enrolling patients, then you're coming to them with all these issues, right? And then the doctor gets upset, coordinators get upset. I don't see how you get around
There
it.
is, in that scenario, what I would do as the CRA is talk to my lead and say, hey, I need to go, instead of every 6 weeks, I need to go every 4 and train them when I'm there. Giving me more time to train. They're obviously not up to speed on training on the protocol, GCP.
More research in general.
Yeah, before something happens, I like to go in there and train them several times.
But the counter to that may be, well, we'll just shut the site down.
Right. But then why did that site get selected in the first place? You know?
Right.
That's another issue. But what if it's not a research naive site? What if it's just a site that's busy, the PI doesn't have time, but they're enrolling a lot. They're not necessarily a key opinion leader, but they're enrolling a lot, so the sponsor likes them, but you're having issues as a CRA. And it's not bad data either. You're just having issues meeting with the PI and maybe getting queries answered relatively quickly, action items being left undone. But the data's good, like you can't really complain too much.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do in those cases as a CRA?
Well, I think as a CRA, you just would have to get the attention of the principal investigator, which what you're describing was difficult, right?
Yeah.
Just have to let them know that these things need to be done timely. The problem is, though, if you can't get that conversation, I don't know what you do.
The problem is you become a nagging,
You become a nuisance.
and it makes the problem worse.
Right.
You know, now they're looking to avoid you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my strategy, and I've only monitored for like almost 3 years now, like as a contract CRA,
Mm-hmm.
is from the beginning you start with like just kill them with kindness.
Mm-hmm.
That's my strategy. It works for me, not always, but most of the time.
Sure.
And at least you look for an ally in that site. Like, I actually monitor at a university, and there's like 50 people on delegation log. I only interact with 3. You know, the PI, the coordinator, and the pharmacist. But there's a project manager, there's a lead. I don't even deal with those
There's
people.
a project manager at the site.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm supposed to deal with
What's
them.
their function?
I'm supposed to deal with them on certain things like training and those kind of things, but I end up dealing with the PI and the coordinator and everything because I built a rapport
Sure.
with them. So that's one strategy, and then at the smaller
That kind of gets
sites,
back to what we said initially, though. Right?
Yeah.
That you want to be friendly, if possible.
so that's it. What if you're not a friendly CRA? What if you're not friendly?
If you're one of these professional CRAs, they're not really friendly at all.
What if you're just not a friendly person, period? Are you screwed?
No, you're not screwed, but that's where it's going to be difficult for you if you can't, like you're saying, if you can't develop an ally that will at least help you when needed. Yeah, you're in a difficult situation because, again, getting back to your question, I don't know what you do when you need these things done. Who are you going to turn to?
Other than just nagging and pestering, and then
Yeah.
it's easy for someone to ignore your call and ignore your emails.
Yeah, we're currently kind of dealing with a CRA like that now.
Explain. This is why we're doing a long form podcast. It's people like to hear the inside baseball of what you're
Sure.
what we're dealing with.
So it's the CRA we're dealing with now is kind of, nuisance is too strong of a word. But it's in the same ballpark, right?
Okay.
She'll send an email, and then 5 minutes after the email is sent, she'll call about the email, right? And want to discuss the same issues that are on the email.
Okay.
Right? You haven't even had time to respond to the email. Or maybe you're halfway through responding to the email, and she's calling you to discuss the email. And it's like almost every time this happens.
So someone's got to report to write or finish.
No, it's not even about that kind of thing. No, it's about any issue,
Hmm.
right? Any issue.
Or is this a new CRA or
No.
seasoned?
You've met the CRA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You met the CRA in Beverly Hills.
Oh my gosh.
This person watches your videos, so she
Wow.
might know we're talking about her right now.
Sure. You're talking about it. I'm just listening. I don't have
But
popcorn.
that response kind of indicates your feelings on this too.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, so strategies for her.
It's pestering, right? I'm going to she's not unfriendly either, which is just kind of odd. She's a friendly person.
Yeah, I love her.
Well, I don't know about love, but she's friendly.
Well, she's listening.
Anyhow, so I mean, she's nice enough, she's friendly enough, but she just goes a little overboard on. She's in the other monitor's realm in that regard, right?
So I'm not.
Everything's a major issue.
I'm not in the trenches, but I have heard
Right.
from several people the same thing about this one.
Right.
I don't know what to say. I mean, time will tell if that strategy is going to work out.
Right.
You know, but if she's been using it for her entire career, she seems like a seasoned CRA. So.
Right. Right. She can more get away with it than the other one we were talking about.
I feel like she can turn it on and off though.
Well, again, she can get away with it more so because she is friendly.
Yeah. She has a switch, like she can turn it on.
No, I don't know if she can turn it off. It's like a compulsive disorder in which,
Wow.
this issue has to be dealt with now.
Any complaints, Chris at brkthru.org.
Well, this other very difficult CRA was not friendly, though she would say it with a smile on her face.
And she doesn't listen, as far as I can tell.
Right, but she says it with a smile on her face, and she thinks that's friendly. No, it doesn't work that way. Just because you're saying with a smile on your face.
Yeah. So, basically, if you're a CRA, try to be nice.
Yeah.
That's really all you got to work with.
It is. It truly is. I mean, there's other things you can implement too, in my opinion. So
know your stuff, I think, is something you can implement because
if you have a seriously difficult site,
yeah,
right? And I don't mean difficult in terms of personality. I mean difficult in errors, right? Data.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're an experienced CRA, you know what's important, right? Don't come down on every little thing. Some things you can just let pass.
Focus on the big ones.
Yeah. Just let the little things go aside.
I do that too for my problem sites. I don't really have any. Well, you have one. Yeah, focus on the big things.
Right.
The small things can clear up.
Things that the FDA is going to take issue with. If it's a minor issue with the FDA, just let it slide.
Basically, if you're a CRA, besides a little more tactical than being kind, is try to be an ally for that site. Look for ways you can help them.
Right.
Every site, from research naive to very experienced, has different issues.
Yep.
Try to find a way to resolve those issues. Once I had a CRA when I was a newer coordinator, all right, and this same one actually trained me. Like, she took her time to train me on research, right? Like, and she was really good. She also, when I got more experience, same study, this was a long study, helped me recruit patients better. Like, she told me what other sites were doing nearby. Like, go to this, they go to this boarding care, they go to this. So I went there, and I was able to get patients. Like, that's just another thing they were doing that they didn't have to do.
Sure.
And it helps the study, and it makes me happy.
Yep.
And now when she calls, there's a 50-50 chance it might not be her nagging. It might be something valuable. So I'm more than likely to answer my phone.
And it's not only that,
as
though.
opposed to ignore.
When someone does something for you, you feel, I don't know if obligated is the right word, but you feel like doing something in kind.
Yeah, reciprocity.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, she did something nice.
That's a law of human nature, reciprocity.
Sure, and I agree with it. I mean, I think most humans operate that way.
Yeah.
You do something nice for me, I feel now I gotta do something nice for you.
That's right. If you take me out to dinner, I feel like I gotta take you out to dinner.
No, not necessarily even out to dinner, but you gotta do something nice for
That's
you.
right.
Right?
That's right. Yep. Alright, so that's the strategy. If you're a site, basically, yeah, you have the leverage now, but don't get too cocky.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're gonna be begging these same CRAs in a few years to recommend you for studies.
Yeah, when it slows down.
And if they only met with you like for 5 minutes, Mr. and Mrs. PI, that's now demanding studies from the same CRA you've ignored, it's not a good look. Same thing as the CRA that's nagging you, constantly, and now they need something. Well, if Chris is at Disneyland, not gonna help you.
It's true.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, if you're a PI and you're the business owner as well, it goes out. It serves many purposes for you to be kind to your CRAs.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, it really does.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, watching, And we'll talk more about this. We'll dive even deeper
I don't know if we can, but okay.
on the webinar. We will. Because
Okay.
Carl's going to make exceptional slides. One of them purple with high down. I give you 2 opportunities, Carlos. You better do it. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
He's definitely going to hear that at the end.